We'll start with a short little introduction.
All right.
And then open up the questions. So.
Are we ready? Cool. My name is Jerry Jewell, and I am a voice actor, primarily for Funimation, though I've done a few other projects here and there. And I am also an ADR director for Funimation. So I'm doing 2 shows a week for our simuldub schedule, and then acting in whatever off time I can get. That's what I do. Ta-da!
Does anyone want to start off with a question? Go ahead.
Is there a role you would say is your favorite, and why?
The one I usually say is my favorite at conventions because I haven't rethought it in a couple of years is Claire Stanfield from a show called Bacano. And I just think it's a cool show. It's got a timeline that jumps around, which is sometimes interesting. I get to do an accent in it, and the character I'm playing is a psychopath. But he's a very likable psychopath. One of those characters that you're like, well, I wouldn't go to sleep near him, but he seems like an all right guy. His heart's in the right place, other than when he's scraping somebody's face off on the railroad tracks, because that's just wrong. Let's face it. It's the kind of thing you learn not to do.
Go ahead.
Yes.
So this is your first year at ACEN, but you're not first time at a convention setting, obviously.
I have been in a few convention settings.
From your past convention settings, there is any past fan interactions or fun experiences you've had in a previous convention setting that you'd like to share with us?
I'm always amazed at first of all, how nice most people are. Because sometimes when you watch behavior of large groups, you can be disappointed in humanity. Sometimes, we'll just put it that way. But for the most part, everyone's very polite, and they all say please and thank you, and they will be so grateful for the smallest thing that you do for them, which is really cool to see. I might just hang out for an extra couple of minutes and sign someone's program book, and they're so thankful for it. And to me, I'm like, no, that was totally worth the 2 seconds it took me to do it. It's okay. Thank you so much. I know you didn't have to, but I just like how nice people are. He's got it.
Just keep the ball rolling.
Sure.
You mentioned you're an ADR director as well.
Yes.
And you've been doing that for a while now, I think, right?
5 years, I believe.
What was the transition like from that?
Well, they're very different. I think having come from the voice acting side of things, it helps with the directing. But they're very different things. Directing, I find, is really more about keeping schedules and casting, and it's more organizational than it is artistic most of the time. And a lot of that is time constraints. But again, once you put all of those things together, if you're using your director brain to go, okay, well, for this character, I'm going to need a strong lead, and I'm going to try out a new person on this other character, so I'll get a strong lead over here that will allow me to use that extra time for this new person. It's a lot more of things like that than it is, okay, let's really explore how to say that line. We don't get to do that a lot. So it's more about hiring competent actors, and if they're new or green and need some work, it's about making sure you have enough time to work with that new person to see if you can help them along in making them one of your better actors for the future. But it's more organizational than it is artistic.
Since you've been on both ends of the spectrum here, I'm interested in certain characters that are kind of almost beyond description. Like, how do you give direction or get a feel for a character? Like, say, Rabbit from Junie Tyson.
That one, I think Vic cast me as that rabbit. Usagi, I think was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is rabbit in Japanese, so.
That makes sense. We could call him either one. Or we could call him both and really confuse people. Usagi Rabbit. he's another one of those characters that I think Vic probably looked at and went, Jerry does crazy well. We'll see what he does with it. And he called me in, and it really didn't take long. I have a nephew that has a kind of an interesting speech pattern sometimes. And the normal thing for making someone creepy that I do, that I don't know why people like it, but they seem to, is to kind of soften someone up a little bit and kind of put a smile all the way through it. And I combine those two things, and then you've got a guy who kind of has a childlike mind, but just wants to be friends. And we played with it. I think Vic liked it, and we stuck with it. It's just fun, though. There's a guy, and his legs are totally jacked. He's wearing high heels. He's got a huge tail. It's ridiculous, but fun.
Well, just from a little bit there, I am terrified right now, actually. I mean, it kind of sounds like you're trying to tell someone a bedtime story, but they're not going to wake up after they go to sleep.
You're telling them a bedtime story, but they don't know that the monster's not going to get you. Because the monster can't get you if you're already dead.
Anyone else? Question? You got one?
Yes.
So for that kind of thing, do you ever worry about being typecast if you're kind of good at that kind of character?
It doesn't bother me. I wonder why people do it. I mean, just being on the other side of that, I wonder why people don't try someone else every now and then. But at the same time, you don't mind because it's another part that you get to do. And for me, I'm going into it going, they say that psycho's my thing, so I guess I should be able to pull this off relatively easy, if that is true. And then I let them worry about it. And I just, again, go in and do whatever it is I'm going to do. More questions? More questions? This is fun. Yes.
I have one if we want to. I mean, you do this a lot, get questions asked to you constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if we want to just flip the script a little bit, put the ball in your court. Is there any questions that you have for us as like press or fan of anime fans and stuff that have always been burning in your mind? Power's yours.
Okay.
No pressure.
I would like to know, like, what kind of things you guys notice, like what kind of things you pay attention to when you talk to guests, or if it's do you notice different egos? Do you notice different?
Well, that's I usually notice body language, hands specifically.
I fidget.
I know that way I kind of get a gauge of what to ask the guests or whatnot, of like how nervous they are or what if they're uncomfortable with my last question. I always notice what are they doing with their hands, fidgeting, sides, or rubbing or anything like that.
My fidgeting is not because of you, just so you know. This is something I do.
Well, that's the baseline because you were doing it like immediately. So it's like either he's really nervous about this thing he's probably done 10,000 times, or that's just a tick that he has.
I fidget constantly.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm at home, I'm walking around pacing, snapping my fingers. It's terrible, and it seems like I can't help it anymore. So who knows? Maybe it's some neurological thing. But yeah, like what kind of do you guys ever sit there? Has there ever been a guest that you guys are like, this guy's totally full of himself?
No, actually, I find most of them are very level-headed. We've heard a very similar response from pretty much all of them. It's like, I love this job. And
It's a good gig.
It makes it a lot easier to talk to people who are genuinely interested in their own job.
Anime conventions are the best. Wizard World or some Comic-Cons where people are there because they have no other option but to grab a check.
Right.
I've had really bad experiences with sort of thing where the guy will do the interview, but he's not into it, and he kind of will let you know, but he's doing it because his publicist is right there, and that person wants him to do it, and yeah, it's sometimes you'll get it where it's like, come on, man, like you work with me, we're both here, we're both doing the same job, like I mean, you could help me out, help me help you, sort of thing.
You get crazy money for doing what you do.
Yeah.
You could at least pretend to be interested for a half hour.
So we know you've been asked the same questions, a
Yeah.
couple times today.
And
but
that happens. It doesn't matter what convention you go to. It's always going to be the same questions. after you've done a new show, all you have to do is replace whatever title with that new show and know that you're going to get those questions.
Just update your roster.
Yeah, it's best just to, at least I think it's best just to get over it and understand that's a thing that happens. It's always going to happen. And in a way, it's good. As long as people are always asking the same questions, you know that they're not the same people. And I've been going to conventions for probably 15, 16 years now. So that's someone's childhood and adolescence, which means they're probably not even coming to these things anymore. It's the next generation. So I'm happy to answer those questions as long as people are asking them, because that means people are still watching and we're still bringing new people into this whole thing, or their friends are getting them into it, or whatever the case may be.
Which means you still get paid.
Well, as long as let me put it this way. As long as there is a friend, it usually tends to be a female friend, but as long as there is a friend that has a copy of Fruits Basket somewhere, there will be new women watching anime year after year until the end of time.
This was reversed. I made her read it.
Well, as long as there's some introduction to Fruits Basket, because for some reason that seems to be the gateway anime, at least for stuff I've been in. I get that more than anything else. Fruits Basket was the first thing I ever saw. And you go, oh, cool, who's your friend? And it's always some slightly older girl.
That's how it goes. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. My pleasure to be here.
Yes.
And thank you guys. You don't have to. I don't need to.
I could choose to.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And if you're interested in checking out some of our other content, why not check out the UGO podcast on iTunes or at our webpage, unapologeticgeekout.com. And again, thanks for watching.